We have risen from the ashes to school the masses. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Scholars of Wrestling Show, episode 343. I am the man behind the microphone, Scholar Jeff. Joining us this week is the undisputed scholar himself, the one and only Scholar Tarek. Scholar Tarek, how are you doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing very well this evening, my good fool. How are you this evening?
I am schwippervescent. Isn't that
Big
right, Scholar?
words.
Isn't that right, Scholar Brian? Because you clearly know the meaning of the words I say.
Sure. I'm just in awe, but
Oh, ah.
of words that I've never heard before. What does it mean, Scott?
I'm sure it's just a horrific, knowing me and my track record, it's just a horrific bastardization of some sales thing for like Schweppes ginger ale or something. I don't know. I'm just talking out of my butt. It's
Fair
late
enough.
here. It's late here on the East Coast. This is not coffee, and we're just rolling with the punches because that's what we do here on the Scholars of Wrestling. We roll with the punches, we talk wrestling, and we have a good time, even when the most unexpected of things happens to drop in our lap this week. Am I
Out of
wrong?
nowhere.
Well, you know what? I'm sure if you're paying any attention at all to the world of wrestling, you know what we're referring to. But let's make it official. Let's kick things off the right way when we talk about it all in a little segment we like to call Backstage News.
Indeed, we shall go ahead and peek behind the curtain and realize, hey, wait a minute, there's a few people missing here, and check in on a little
Backstage news.
news.
News. Random people getting fired, man.
Not knowing where to point, man. But yes.
Here, everywhere.
But yes, as Scholar Brian put it, yeah, there were a lot of releases from WWE this week, including some very surprising names. We have Santana Garrett, Ruby Riott, Murphy, Lana, Aleister Black, and Braun Strowman, all released from their WWE contracts. Guys, break it down for me. When did you hear about it? What was your initial reaction? And what the hell's up?
Well, I was on Twitter on Wednesday, and I was just going through stuff, and the guy who I get most of my wrestling news from, Sean Ross Sapp, over at Fightful, he had said the night before, yeah, looking like it's got to be a busy day tomorrow. So Tuesday night, he posted that, and then around 11:30 a.m., I would think, he put up another tweet that said, WWE releases incoming, some surprising names on this list. Just gonna wait until they're confirmed by my source before I post them. And then about 10 minutes later, he put out the list of names. And I was like, the first one I saw was Braun Strowman, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, that was absolutely insane.
I mean, like the other five, like Aleister Black, I understand, but I don't at the same time. But the Braun Strowman one came out of nowhere. The other four, like I can understand completely. Okay, but Braun Strowman in 2017, he might have been the most over guy in your company. Because the summer of 2017 was the I'm not finished with you, Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar era of Braun Strowman, where he was just running roughshod and causing all kinds of destruction, and the people loved that. And he might have been other than Seth Rollins at that time, the most over guy in your company. If you had him beat Brock Lesnar, he could have been the face of your company going forward.
Yeah,
And now because of the contract he signed, because that came out, because of the contract he signed and all that, with Nick Khan coming in for his cost-cutting measures, okay, and the new big guys that they have, Omos and the commander, whatever his name is, Commander Aziz on SmackDown, kind of makes $1.2 million for Braun really not sustainable at this time. So Nick Khan, being the cost-cutting man that he is, doesn't really care about, just cares about getting what he needs to get done. He sees that $1.2 million contract. Yeah, you might have been in one of the main events of our last pay-per-view, but I don't really see you performing your contract, so you're gonna have to go. That's it.
Yeah. Then again, though, I have to call that into question, because my wife is very much of a casual fan, and she was legitimately sad when she found out that Braun Strowman got released. Like, that name more than anything else.
Oh
So
yeah,
I just really have to
because
question the wisdom of this. Yeah, it's a
well,
big money contract, but
this is the
why?
thing. This is the thing. Okay, Nick Khan was brought in as president for this kind of thing. Okay, he was brought in as president for cost cutting because he knew how to tighten up. He was brought in to tighten up the roster, tighten up the human relations department. He was to cut loose the fat, if you will. And I can't tell you how smart it is. I can't I can't really say how smart the decision is because we don't know yet. But the deal is Nick Khan deemed Braun Strowman replaceable because of the two men that they brought in. He's no longer a commodity. He's no longer the only one that they have. And that's what made him, he's no longer the only monster among men.
Speaking of monsters among men, Fool, I'm interested to hear your take on this. How did you first hear about it? What was your initial impression, and what do you make of all this?
Pretty much when I first heard about it, it was through Brian, through our scholars discussion board, and I just went online on Twitter to confirm it. And I also get my wrestling updates from Sean Ross Sapp. So yeah, I was shocked. My immediate reaction, I was shocked when it came to Brock Lesnar. I was disappointed when it came to Aleister Black. And I was just really sad when it came to Ruby Riott and Lana. Because more sad when it comes to Ruby Riott because from what I've heard, Liv Morgan was just actually interviewed, and she said she was looking forward on certain things that she'd do with the Riot Squad that day. So I'm just like, oh, Liv Morgan is just so excited to what she has planned with Ruby Riott. Nope, that's gone. Aleister Black, I was really into this Dark Father character. I liked the vignettes. Apparently, he was getting shirts released on pre-order. Like, they were really going in on this new character for him. and just like storyline ideas that he was pitching, of like him having a feud with the Fiend Bray Wyatt, kind of blaming him for what Seth Rollins did to him with the whole eye situation, the eye feud, when he had it with Rey Mysterio. And I'm just like, wow, that is just nice storyline build. I'm actually really looking forward to see what they could do with this. And no. So that was my biggest disappointment. And he literally just came back and was about to get in a nice big feud with Big E. And yeah, it just turns out, nope, let's just cut you.
That's the one that confused me.
Yeah, it was just
Braun Strowman was the shock.
Mhm.
Aleister Black was the confusion, because I was like, 2 weeks ago you just had him kick Big E in the mouth, and
now Big E's going back to probably or he hasn't. I don't think he showed up on this week's SmackDown either. Right now he's just gone. Aleister Black just kicked him out of existence for a while.
because Aleister Black said that the feud was supposed to start this week.
Yep.
They kept him off of TV last week, and the feud was supposed to start this week. So,
which for the reason that they didn't have Big E and Aleister Black on last week's show, I thought was a stupid as hell decision. Oh, keep him off for a week to, what was it, to bring in the shock, or have the shock build. And I liked Brian Alvarez's reaction to that. He's like, what if they did that at WCW? Hulk Hogan just joined the NWO, and they didn't continue that storyline the next week.
Yeah, they just
shocked me. I was like, yeah, like that's exactly right. That's
after.
a stupid reason. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was dumb. And then he got cut, which I was just shocked and just disappointed. As for Braun Strowman, yeah, I was real. That was the real shocking factor, because I even heard the almost Commander Aziz thing that Brian was talking about myself with other people, saying the exact same thing. Now that they have those two as monsters, why do you need Braun Strowman? And really, my answer to that is Braun Strowman is a draw. Even if he's being booked like shit, like what you were saying with Season, fool, for the casual audience, he is something that they liked. So we're probably going to have a discussion on like, where do you see these guys going? And I have one. Braun Strowman is actually pretty solid in where I think what he's going to do. But
well, since you brought it up, I can't think of a better segue than that. Where do you see everyone going, in particular Braun Strowman?
Honestly, I see Braun Strowman going back to WWE for a smaller contract, because I see him as just a guy who has that implant on that Vince McMahon's mind of just, it's only WWE. He is one of those guys.
And I'm not entirely certain that he'd be welcome anywhere else with
exactly
what he was saying, with what he was saying before WrestleMania last year
about independent wrestlers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see him going anywhere. I just see him coming back to WWE for a smaller contract.
Or he's gonna go back into the powerlifting.
That is actually one thing that they said that he wanted to. That's one thing he really wanted to focus on. So that's partially why he was released, and then his contract being so much. So yeah. That's actually another thing I saw him doing. If he was going out of the wrestling business for a while, yeah, I see him going into powerlifting and bodybuilding.
Yeah,
that's one of his big things that he's on.
Well, I mean, that's where he was found.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Mark Henry found him.
Yep.
I thought for a second, like maybe before I remembered what he said last year, I was like, maybe he's going to follow Mark Henry. But then I was like, no, because they remember what he said last year before WrestleMania. So I don't think that they're going to want him anywhere else. But the deal with I don't see Braun Strowman is one of those guys who's WWE or he's going back to the powerlifting because that was his big thing, and that was where they found him, and that was where, as Tarek said, he wanted to put focus on that for a little while before they released him.
I do have one thought that occurs to me. And again, a lot's been said about this during the past week, but one person in particular, Billy Corgan, was pretty vocal about how do you let someone like Braun Strowman go. So
I
I'm
mean,
not.
like that. As I said, okay, he was the most over guy in your company in 2017. He was the Universal Champion last year. 2 years too late, but still.
Longest reigning, greatest Royal Rumble winner or champion.
So it's one of
Now
those.
Bacon could claim another title.
And he just put on a banger of a triple threat match with Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley in one of the main events of your last show. And you let that man go. It's a missed opportunity. You missed an opportunity to build a face of the company in 2017 when he was your most over guy, flipping over trucks and shit, flipping over ambulances, throwing Roman Reigns off of balconies on a stretcher,
Pushing
saying,
scaffolding onto Brock Lesnar and Kane.
yeah, you have him beat Brock Lesnar at that time. He's the most over guy, and he's getting cheered like Austin.
That being said, hear me out. It's not the most likely of scenarios, but I do think there's a chance
NWA.
that if Billy Corgan makes a serious bid for him, because right now they've got a big problem, and NWA does, and that's Nick Aldis has been champion forever, and there's a lack of really serious contenders for him in NWA right now. If let's say that Braun Strowman does want to spread his wings and diversify back into powerlifting and whatnot, if the money's right and Billy Corgan is willing to play ball, I can definitely see him going to NWA and immediately trucking through Nick Aldis and taking the NWA World Heavyweight Championship.
And I would normally be enthused by that idea, but Braun Strowman himself negotiated that $1.2 million contract with the E. He's not going to go much lower than that.
You know what? I think he might actually, because if there is any truth to him wanting to go back into powerlifting, he may have requested that money, that number, just because if he was going to be taken away from that world, he would need enough money to make it worth it in his mind.
And I'm pretty certain that when they negotiated that deal, it was when AEW was coming in, and that was when they were renegotiating with everybody to keep them.
Very true.
That's another thing with all of these contracts. They were probably all renegotiated to much larger deals than they normally would have been in order to keep them and not have them jump like Moxley did.
Which is sort of feeding into my idea here. It's entirely possible in my mind that in exchange for, he's getting lower pay overall, but then again, if he also gets a lighter traveling schedule, Braun does, along with the freedom to do his powerlifting, do that, and he's recognized as a world champion, the by one of the biggest and oldest belts out there, I think there's an outside chance. I really do.
I'm not gonna lie. If there is anybody of these recently releases that I could actually see going to NWA and just taking the belt, it's probably Aleister Black.
Mm,
He would be he's the only one that I can actually see him just showing up out of nowhere. It's either that
Murphy.
or Murphy. Yeah, him or Murphy. It's definitely one of those two.
Because Braun Strowman's about that exposure, man. As much as I would love to see what you're describing, okay, he's all about that exposure, and I'm sorry to say that NWA these days, okay, it doesn't mean what it used to. So it's going from WWE to 50,000 people maybe watching you on YouTube. Okay. Maybe tops. Okay.
That is exactly why I said it was an outside chance.
Yeah. So it's like I can see it in my head. Like I can picture it, but I also know who Braun Strowman is.
That being said, we also, just breaking right before we started recording this, Andrade El Idolo, it did debut for AEW just tonight as we're recording this. So that on that note, we just talked about Braun Strowman. We talked a little bit about Aleister Black. Where do you think everyone else is going to end up? Are they going? Is any major company going
Ruby
to
Riot's
pick them
going
up?
to Impact.
I honestly think that at All Out, they normally do a women's battle royal. They did one last year. They do one this year. I could see they need someone else with name value in that division. I could see Ruby Riott going there. Lana's obviously going there to be with Miro at some point.
Oh yeah, they're definitely they're gonna get that two back together, and that act is gonna be amazing.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I feel like if Ruby Riott is gonna be somewhere that could actually, I don't know, that she could actually do something. I only see her going to Impact. I don't think she's gonna make that much of a impact in AEW. She'll just be if anything, she would just be in dark matches, and that's all she'll ever stay.
I honestly don't think so. I think she can come, because Tony Khan sees the value in people that Vince McMahon does not. And just listen to the locker room from WWE talking about Ruby Riott, Heidi Lovelace. So it's like I can see her going to Impact. I can see her going to AEW. I can see I could see Murphy going to NJPW. I can see him going over to Japan, and I can see him doing like the Leo Rush kind of deal. What Leo Rush is doing, just like a little bit of everything, with like his main spot being NJPW, doing side stuff with AEW, doing side stuff with GCW, doing all kinds of stuff. He's that journeyman guy. Doesn't really sign anywhere, just kind of
is everywhere.
Just shows up everywhere. doing those Tony Khan handshake deals. That's it. We've got a handshake. Aleister Black. I think he's AEW at some point.
I'll tell you what, there's as much as
one of them is showing up at All Out. Somebody on that list.
I'll tell you what, I'm not so convinced yet. almost all of these people are absolutely AEW material. Don't get me wrong, but I'm also thinking that there's only so many people that AEW can sign. Uh, Again, they've
Well,
got a whole bunch of money, but there's only a limited amount of people that they can sign.
and
I'm
normally
convinced.
that's why
I'm
I'm saying only one of them. I
Yeah,
could see one of them showing up at All Out. One of them.
yeah, but that's like in my mind, that's like the absolute maximum, and I, I think they're gonna save their. I think AEW and Tony Khan are gonna save their pennies for someone like Daniel Bryan or Samoa Joe, someone like that. Uh, I think that Ruby Riot's definitely got a shot, but my gut instinct is telling me that she's going to wind up in Impact with Santana Garrett. As for Aleister Black, I I have this funny feeling that he's going to go to New Japan.
All I know about Aleister Black is that the only person he said that he wants to fight on the and this could be anywhere. This could be Bloodsport. This could be NJPW. It could be AEW. But the only person he's mentioned by name that he wants to fight is is Moxley. So it's like he could show up on any of those three. He could show up at Bloodsport. He could show up at NJPW. He could show up at AEW. And if you're thinking anybody on that list out of everybody, okay, Scholars Quick Talk. If you had to pick one of those six names to show up at All Out, which is 94 days from the day that they were fired, their no compete clauses up. If you had to pick one of those six people who would show up at All Out,
Heidi
Black.
Lovelace. What? Okay, why Aleister Black? Fool, you go first.
I don't know. I just the thought of Black versus Hangman Adam Page, Black versus Jungle Boy, Black versus Omega. I just would love to see those matches for me personally.
Yeah, those would definitely be some absolutely dynamite matches, pun fully intended. But I feel like if they're gonna add someone into their men's division, it's gonna be someone like Samoa Joe or Daniel Bryan or some other big name like that. I feel like where they could of those names we were just talking about, I feel like their women's division, as much as it's improving, needs that boost right now. And I think there's no better hand out of that bunch of people than Heidi Lovelace. So if I would had the pencil in AEW right now, I would hire former Ruby Riot, whatever you want to call her, scoop her up right away. Give her
and
someone interesting for Britt Baker to fight.
and that was actually my thought. It all depends on which battle royal they're gonna have at All Out, because they always like alternate for like title shots or whatever. They always alternate, so it's just, if it's a women's battle royal, then Ruby Riot's gonna be the mystery entrant. If it's the men's battle royal, like the way they've been doing battle royals, like I could see Murphy more than Aleister Black at All Out. All Out. You know
Maybe
what?
like a one-off,
Let's
maybe.
let's just screw it. Screw it. You said Scholar Tarek said Aleister Black. Scholar Jeff said Heidi Lovelace. I'm gonna say Murphy.
Well, one thing's for sure: the next 90-something days are going to be very interesting in the world of wrestling, if not earlier. So, all the best to you who are recently released. We love you. We wish you all the best. Can't wait to see what's next for all of you. But what was just next for AEW, speaking of, the consensus seems to be that everyone loved Double or Nothing.
Most of it.
Yeah, personally, I feel I'm just going to say it right now. This is contender for show of the year for me. Just boom, that's it.
Oh, based off of everything we've seen so far, no doubt. Like, I don't even think it's close. Really. Maybe the first night of Mania. But
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. The only other event that actually is a top contender for event of the year is probably Backlash.
Yeah, because Backlash was
Take the zombies out of
take the
it.
zombies out, and that
Take the
was
zombies
great.
out. It was a perfect show, and this one was. I would have to take. Okay, I guess this is just us segueing into our Double or Nothing discussion.
Yes, it absolutely is.
Each match was just absolutely great. If I had to take anything out, it would actually be two things. One is the Cody Rhodes versus a Go-Go. I'm
That
sorry.
killed the
I
crowd.
didn't like it. I didn't like that at all.
That killed the crowd. Killed it dead. Okay.
It's funny because I was feeling manipulated with Cody's entrance. I'm like, I feel like this is just, if I don't love this, I'm not American.
I've felt manipulated by Cody since he did that promo.
The American Dream promo.
The American Dream promo. I'm like,
I'm just
come on,
like,
man.
as soon as he said that, I'm like, yeah, this he's winning.
Yeah.
On Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, it was a
course.
complete no-brainer. That
Everyone
it was the
was
most
like a
over the
go-go
top
should win.
entrance.
Yeah. Everyone was like
And-
a go-go should win, and it's like he's not going to. The American Dream. He's doing it one time. It's Memorial Day weekend.
And
It's
of course, Brandy had to say something about like, oh, now that the fans are back, the internet wrestling community can shut up, or the internet wrestling community is dead. And I'm just like, are you really that stupid? They're still gonna talk.
Do you know who were the fans in that crowd? That the diehards.
Exactly.
They're all Cody Rhodes fans. All of them. I follow them on Twitter. They all love Cody Rhodes. Everybody else does not. That's it.
I will say this, however, just due to how everything was pulled off, I thought the match itself was just okay.
Oh,
It's a low point for sure, but if this is the lowest point on the card, that just goes to show how high the rest of the bar was set for the rest of the show, because I was fully entertained by all of it.
The only other thing that I said was actually just as low that I actually ended up not liking was the Stadium Stampede match.
Really?
That was actually that was the only match that I actually didn't watch that night, and I saw that the people were very mixed on that match. And after actually watching it, I'm just like, you know what? I feel like Stadium Stampede should have just been a one-time deal.
I'm not going to go that far.
Well, good for you.
I would say that I would say that might not have been the best idea for your first show back to have anything involved that wasn't live.
I couldn't get into it. I found myself bored. I actually fell asleep, and I kept waking. I woke up and I rewound, but I was like, God. After the big high that was Orange Cassidy, Pac, and Kenny Omega for the title, because that one was hands down match of the night for me. That reminded me why I'm a wrestling fan. I loved that match. I that was the only match of the show I kept going back to, and then when it came to moments, I just kept watching Jungle Boy win because I love Jungle Boy and I just didn't want Christian to win, even though I predicted him. That was the one prediction I was happy to be wrong on.
Yeah, that one certainly came. I'm not going to say it certainly came out of left field, but again, out of everyone in that match and all the big names we're talking about, Jungle Boy was one of those kinds of names where no one predicted it, but it strangely makes sense and everyone's cool with it.
I'm not even saying strangely at that point. It's like when it came down to Christian and Jungle Boy, I was like, they're doing an underdog thing here. Jungle Boy's gonna win. There's no doubt in my mind. And then Jungle Boy won, and it's like the crowd went nuts. And this is what the deal is. Okay, you have the guys at the beginning who hold the company up while the smaller homegrown names are coming up. So you have the Jerichos and you have the Moxleys and you have the Omegas and you have the people who are holding it down while everyone else is getting built up. And now you have the Darby Allens, you have the Jungle Boys that are ready to take their spot. Okay, I'm not saying Jungle Boy is going to be the one to beat Kenny Omega because we all know it's not. Okay.
Yeah, they're saving that for Adam Page, baby.
But it's like Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, Hangman Page. He's certainly ready. Okay, Eddie Kingston. It's just like the older guys, the faces that you brought in, so that the to be the faces of your company at the beginning can now sort of start to be phased out a little bit. You can start bringing in the homegrown talent, and you're seeing that now with Darby Allin getting huge spots with Sting. Sting's gonna put him over as Sting goes out. Okay, you've got Jungle Boy, you've got Hangman Page, who's gonna be your next champion. Okay, you've got Eddie Kingston, who's gonna take the Mox spot when it's Mox time to go.
I will say I like Eddie Kingston, but he lost serious points with me for talking shit on Cesaro. You don't talk shit on Cesaro and get away with it, man. Shame on you.
No, you know what? They fought in the Indies, so I'll allow it.
They fought in the Indies, but I'm just like, you know what? No. You don't talk about my man that way.
I was gonna say, for me, it just brings back fuzzy Chikara memories.
Exactly. So
I was like, nope.
So it's one
shame,
of those.
Shame, sir. Okay, but yeah.
The best wrestled match of the night, yes. Kenny Omega versus Pac versus
the best everything. It was everything.
For everything for me, everything put together. Okay, I might be slightly biased, but it's also just the whole story of that match, everything that came together. I enjoyed the tag team title match the most.
Fair.
Everything.
That was super exciting.
Just everything about it. Just like the ending was a little.
They killed him. They killed Moxley.
I was happy that he took the pin, and he didn't show up tonight. So that might have been his write-off for when Renee has the baby. But
who said that Who said that on the prediction show? And yeah, and who shut that? Who tried to shut that down? Oh yes. Yeah, that's what I thought, Brian. That's what I thought. They omni-manned Moxley. They were just crushing his head with his legs. But I was expecting eyeball popping out.
But it's like I loved every bit of that, because it was like the story of the thing was like you had to kill him to put him down. A bunch of super kicks that he kicks out at one. You had to kill him. You had to knock him out to put him down. And just like the whole story of it just everything about that first hour. That first hour might have been one of the best hours of television that I've seen this entire year. Okay, that first hour, including the pre-show. I saw the pre-show, Riho versus Serena Deeb. That was fucking fantastic as well.
I stand by my tweet. Someone apparently didn't tell Serena Deeb and Riho that this is only the pre-show. You don't have to go that hard, but like there's like No,
No, it's like
no.
they went out and put if that was a WWE show, that might have been match of the night. but but it's just like and then Hangman Page and Brian Cage came in and did better than that. And then the tag team title match came on and did better than that. And then you had the feel good moment of Jungle Boy, and then out came Cody Rhodes, and the crowd went dead.
And again, I stand by the point where itself, it wasn't a bad match at all. It's just everything that came before it was just so good that there had to be a dip somewhere. And it just so happened
But
to be Cody.
They
and
became the pee break match.
and the
At least they did
problem
for
with
me.
it-
I went to the bathroom during their match.
the
That's what I,
problem yeah, the problem about a dip for me is that it wasn't a dip, it was a free fall. The match was good, but with the guy who proclaims himself the face of your company, the crowd should not be silent during your match, no matter how great the first hour was. A go-go showed me some things. He did pretty well for his first big time match. But you probably could have done that on Dynamite. And it would have been fine. It didn't need to be on a pay-per-view. This whole thing. I like Cody Rhodes. Don't get me wrong, but this whole thing was an ego trip for Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
I definitely felt a Jeff Jarrett vibe
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
in that.
absolutely.
That was the big thing that made me feel like I was being manipulated. I'm like, yeah, again, I feel like if I were to not like this, I feel not American.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I still, I guess I'm not American enough to, at least in Cody's eyes. I didn't like it.
But you are a wrestling fan, so I imagine you liked Miro defeating Lance Archer, and then we got a new AEW champion, Dr. Britt Baker, like we all called it.
Had to happen. I will say the Riho versus Serena Deeb was the better wrestled match, but Britt Baker versus Sheeta, for me, quite honestly, that match was like, okay, get on with it.
We all know what's going on.
Get to the good part.
Get to the part.
We're here for the celebration at the end. Okay, that's what we're here for. Okay, just get through the match, let it happen, and we'll all go nuts when Britt Baker won. And I went nuts. I marked out when Britt Baker won. So there you go. You did your job.
Yeah, honestly, this one is probably my match of the night. Actually, it's tied for match of the night with Young Bucks versus Moxley and Kingston. Both these matches just absolutely had the pacing down. You had the excitement. It made you believe just for a second it could go any way at all. And this again, it's two of those matches that just made me remind me how good wrestling can be, and it was too good.
And I love the triple threat match for the title: Orange Cassidy, Kenny Omega, Pac. Kind of turned into a WCW thing at the end there, where the ref got taken out like 3 separate times, and so it got kind of.
I'm sorry. I just like the whole storytelling of basically the continuing feud of Orange Cassidy and Pac was just they are their worst enemies, and like it's because of them they kept. If it was like a one-on-one match, they probably would have stood a better chance against Kenny, but they're their own foils. They are their biggest weaknesses when it came to that match, and it was just really great storytelling. I really loved the ending with all the titles and all that. It may have felt WCW for you, but I was just like, that is just pure dick of Kenny Omega. I was just like, you son of a bitch, I love you. You
the
are a
titles
great.
and all that wasn't the problem. I was just like, you took the ref out like 4 separate times.
Like I don't know.
I'm like,
a part of me is even thinking like, you don't
more?
really need to take him out. It's a triple threat match. Anything goes. Damn it.
Exactly.
Stop,
I'm like, there's
stop
a logic.
leave him alone. He's already dead.
I'm like, there's a logic fail. You took him out once. He's getting up. You take him out again. Why? He's a ref. He can't see until about 5 minutes from now. Anyway, he's just going to be stumbling around the ring trying to get his bearings. You got 4 titles. You can't take out 2 guys while the ref's stumbling around the ring in 3 minutes. But I'm like, I love the fact that he hit Pac with 4 separate titles. I love that.
I was like, you son of a bitch. I love it.
I love that.
Is like I said, I'm just watching. I'm like, you dick. I hate you. And yet I love you. And yet I hate you. And yet I love you.
You're the kind of dick where it's like, I love to watch you, but I'm gonna enjoy it so much when Hangman takes it off of you.
Exactly. And that's what I was so emotionally invested in that. A lot more than the tag title match. But yeah, that's why it took match, because I love all 3 guys. I love Orange Cassidy. I love Pac. I love Kenny Omega. I'm still not a fan of Don Callis as his manager, but that's just
that's always what Don Callis is.
Yeah.
No matter how you slice it.
Yeah.
I feel like they're trying to Paul Heyman him up.
But you can't. It's like Paul Heyman's a separate animal.
Yeah, I feel like that's what they're trying to do, and I'm just like, stop it. You're not Paul Heyman. You're never going to be Paul Heyman. You got to knock that shit out.
Yeah.
So
and for me, well, for Stadium Stampede, I didn't hate it, but the last half of the match where it was live and actually in the state and actually in the arena was like, it's the first show back. You shouldn't be doing taped anything for your first live show back. And Wardlow and Hager in the meat in the butcher's meat section was no didn't need that.
I feel like with the crowds coming back, I feel like cinematic matches should just end.
Yeah. So
it definitely felt that way for me. I just felt like, okay, I honestly feel like they're trying to have a repeat of the first Stadium Stampede match, and I'm like, you can't. I mean,
you don't have Hangman Page riding on a horse.
You don't have Hangman Page riding on a horse. You don't have Matt Hardy going into a pool and changing to a bunch of different characters. You don't have Sammy being suplexed from one end of the stadium to the other.
I did like that it did come full circle and it was Sammy driving the golf cart this time.
Yeah, that was a nice little Easter egg.
And so it's like I did get back into it once they actually started doing like in the arena, in the ring stuff, but I could have done without the actual like stadium bit of it. If they were gonna do it, they should have done that first and did Blood and Guts last. They as I said in the preview show, they did this ass backwards. That's it.
So all that being considered, after we've looked at everything, what is your final beard rating for AEW Double or Nothing?
I'm gonna give it a high full beard, 4 out of 5. Like full beard that's just slowly transitioning into goat face. I liked it. The Cody Rhodes thing definitely took me out. The Stadium Stampede, I just felt like was just a lackluster ending compared to, I'm sorry, I feel like Kenny Omega, I feel like the triple threat should have closed the show. Even if it ended up with the crowd being angry or whatnot, I still feel like that was the closer for me. And the Stadium Stampede was just, I guess the best way to explain it is just, even though I personally never had a problem with it, it was basically their Lord of the Rings multiple endings that just kept going. And it was just like, okay, when is it going to end already for me? But yeah, like I said, I've never had a problem with the Lord of the Rings endings. I was perfectly fine with it. So, but it wouldn't be in this case.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm perfectly fine with it too. So much so that I'm just going to give this a goat face. 5 out of 5 stars. It's been a long time since I had this degree of fun with a professional wrestling show, and it made me want to be in the crowd live. And it's been a long time since I felt that urge. So yes, I want to see more of this. 5 out of 5. Brian, what do you got?
And I went back and forth because I wasn't thrilled with the Stadium Stampede, but I didn't dislike it as much as Scarlett Tarek did. Cody Rhodes versus Anthony Ogogo didn't need to be there. That was basically an ego trip. But everything else was so good that I'm not gonna go like it's a goat face. Everything's must watch because it's not. But it's the stuff that wasn't good isn't bad enough to drop it from a goat face. So I'm not gonna go goat face, but yeah, it's
a
hanging
goat
on,
face,
hanging on by a thread, but still a goat face.
Well, be that as it may, it still resulted in a tournament victory in the Scholars of Wrestling Championship Tournament for you, Scholar Brian. So you advance, and then whoever wins in 2 weeks between me and Tarek at Hell in a Cell, that will determine the finals and who will go one-on-one at Money in the Bank to determine the next Scholars of Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion.
Back where I belong, that title's coming back with me.
Well, now that you've heard our opinions on the matter and all that involves, now is the time where we're pitching it over to you, our wrestling viewing, consuming, arguing audience, wherever you are, all over the world. We want to hear from you. So drop us a line anywhere across the internet, YouTube comments, Facebook posts, and our personal favorites, the Twitter machines. You know the drill. Starting with you, Scholar Tark. Where can they reach you?
You can reach me at the Avatar.
Scholar Brian, where can they reach you?
You can reach me planning about picture opportunities for where I'm going to put that title once it is mine at Atomic Beanpole.
And you can catch me doing way too many finger guns at I'm Robbie Rage. Join the fun. I can tell you love it, fool, because you know who we are. We are the Scholars of Wrestling, and you have just been schooled.
You're welcome.
See you all next week, kids.
Shawn Michaels with the title. That's what I'm doing.
Stop recording, damn it.